Hey everybody, welcome to Laughter Revolution. I'm your host Marla, and this is a podcast that I've built on the premise that while life can be hard, getting through it doesn't always have to be, because laughter. So I am in the first week of my 6-month solo travel journey. And you might be wondering, Marla, what the heck are you learning and laughing about on your travels? Let me tell you. You know, I'm going to start by saying that I'm 59 years old. And I can honestly say that for most of my life, I have been at war with my body. Anyone out there relate to that? Hands up. Nah, yeah, quite a few of you. So what that looks like for me is that I've always thought I was fat. My belly sticks out. It should be flat. I have always pushed my body beyond what it can do and beyond what it should do in some cases. And I don't listen. I haven't listened to my body. So when it gives me signs and signals that I've done too much, I just keep on going. I push through it because who knows best, my body or me? As a result, I have had a lot of injuries that haven't been able to repair properly because I haven't rested and I've pushed through. I've had, years of on and off dieting. I've had an eating disorder. I dealt with bulimia for a number of years. And all of these things that not only weren't helping my body do what it naturally wanted to do, which was to find a balance, but has actively harmed it, in some cases to the point of permanent injury or permanent disability and disrepair, disease, really. And, I think about this and wonder what the heck is up with that? Why do we feel as though our bodies are the enemy? Why do we feel like there's something that is so externally focused rather than this home that we live in that we need to honor and look after and treat like it's precious, because it is. And anyone who's had their health threatened knows how precious our bodies are and how precious our health is. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that over the last few years as I've been trying to get more into that spirit being rather than human doing and trying to listen to my body more. And I've been doing some research and reading a little bit about what they call objectification theory, which is the idea that, and this research was around women, but I think more and more it relates to men as well, certainly. But in our society, we are taught that our bodies are an objectification of an external view. So it isn't this home that we live in, that we experience from the inside out. It's like we are experiencing our bodies as if it's a photograph or it's as if it's something external to us that we're watching. And of course, this is exacerbated by the media. Social media is it has set it on fire. I was lucky as a youngster and young adult. I only had to worry about magazines and TV to show me what I was supposed to look like and what my body was supposed to be able to do. Now with social media, it is just insane. Because a lot of the times those images and those things aren't even real. They aren't even something that can happen. And yet those are the messages we get from the media. And then the messages we get from people who have also internalized that media. And so it's like we're between a rock and a hard place. We see what we're supposed to be able to do and what we're supposed to look like, and we can never measure up. And so we take that frustration and that stress and that disappointment out on our bodies. And I mean, from a therapeutic perspective, because of course I'm a counselor as well, I know from my practice and from my own experience that there's also the big T and the little t traumas that many of us have experienced, that our bodies become a safe place for us to hold and express anger and grief and those traumas and taking them on and taking them out on our bodies. Somebody the other day, I was in a class and somebody was talking about how kids, take things out on their parents. And the teacher said, yeah, that's because it's a safe place to do it. And I think the same goes for our bodies. Our bodies are a safe place to be the target for our anger and our frustration, because it means we don't have to put it out on other people and deal with that response. So there we are. We've got these bodies that should be precious and looked after, and we don't look after them very well, or I don't and haven't looked after mine very well. And that is coming up for me full in my face as I'm into this first week of my trip. So here's how I'm trying to get unstuck. First, I'm going to tell a story about how it's come up for me. First day of my trip. I get off the airplane in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and I am determined that I'm going to take the tram to my accommodation because it's a quick, easy, cheap tram ride, and then I can walk to my accommodation. And I'm going to do it. So I get on the tram, off my flight on the tram with Gertrude, my suitcase, my little carry-on suitcase, as some of you may remember her from past episodes. And we go and get off at the tram stop, and I'm feeling good. And then I look 25 stairs down to the street that I need to get to. And I look at Gertrude and say, Gertrude, are we doing this? She was non-committal, so I had to take matters into my own hands. I picked her up and we started down the stairs. And halfway down, my knee gave a scream that I have never felt before from it, to the point where I had to stop and give it a shake and rub it out a little bit, and then hobble down to the bottom of the steps and hobble my way to my accommodation. And as I sat there with an ice pack on my knee, because I was lucky they had something in the freezer, it came to me like, Marla, if you are not looking after your body, this is going to be a long and onerous trip. If you can't carry Gertrude in your backpack around, if you can't walk as much as you'd like to walk to see the sights you want to see, to do the hiking, you are not going to have the experiences you need. You may have to actually go home. So you need to pull it together, my friend. And at that point, I realized it wasn't me that needed to pull it together. Well, it was me, but it was also this alter ego part of me who pushes and pushes and pushes. And so I named her Patty Pusher, which I think is pretty apropos. Patty Pusher has a motto. It goes even beyond no pain, no gain. She's like, push it until you crumble, which I've done several times, which is why I have arm injuries, which is why I have hip injuries, which is why I have sore feet. And I realized that Patty and I were going to have to come to an agreement that we were not going to push beyond what my body is able to do, because I want to enjoy this trip. So Patty and I sat down and we decided, she was a little bit reluctant, but I think I'm bringing her on board. We were going to have a new motto. It was no longer going to be push it until you crumble. Our new motto was going to be built to last, not to trash. And that's what I'm keeping in mind. And every time Patty's coming up telling me in the last week that I should walk further because I need to get to the end of this trail, or I can't be sitting in the house in my accommodation, I should be out doing something even though I'm tired, I'm saying, Patty, built to last, not to trash. And we have a little giggle about that. And I'm able to then move on and be a little bit more honoring and comfortable, and letting go of some of those things that she's telling me I coulda, shoulda, woulda do. So that's my learning so far, and I'm doing not too bad a job of nursing the injuries that I have. My knee's feeling better, thanks for asking, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to keep up that conversation with Patty as we go. So I'm going to move into the Laughter Lounge now. And first I want to tell you that I've had some great feedback on the podcast. And I've also had a couple of people connect with me, telling me how much they are learning and enjoying thinking about breathing and then giggling as a way to help get them through the first points of being stuck in whatever they're stuck in. So a call out to Roxy and Mary for giving me that feedback, and I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody else is getting something from this as well. So that's the first part of the Laughter Lounge. Now I want to tell you what has become my favorite story so far on my trip. This is the Fort William bus driver story. Dun, dun, dun. And I'm going to premise this by saying that one of the tools I use in my laughter toolbox is think when something's going badly or something isn't going the way I want it to, I think about how could I exaggerate this story? If this were a movie, how would they exaggerate this story to make it as funny as possible? So that's something I suggest that you try, because once you get into that, you're looking for the funny. You're looking for the ways that this is going to be a great story. In the Fort William bus driver story, I don't even have to exaggerate it because it was just funny anyway. So picture this. I take the train from Edinburgh to Fort William, and I get off the train and there's a line of taxis, but once again, Marla is going to take public transit and save herself some money. And my host has assured me that it's a 10-minute bus ride up the hill and I will get off right beside my accommodation. So I ask around and figure out where the bus stop is, and I get there and I confirm and the bus is coming, and I get on and tell the bus driver where I'm going, tap my little card, and I go and sit down. And I'm feeling pretty proud, like I'm doing it. I am out here getting around and navigating the world, and with Gertrude by my side, what could go wrong? So 10 minutes turned into 20, and I thought, this has taken longer than I thought it would. So I pulled out my phone, pulled up Google Maps. We were going in the wrong direction, way far in the wrong direction. What the? So the next time the bus stopped, I went up and talked to the bus driver, and I was trying to show him on my phone, but my internet was cutting out and I couldn't. So I was trying to tell him, like, I told you I was going to Banff Crescent, and he had no idea where Banff Crescent was. He thought I said something else. Apparently my Canadian accent is indecipherable here in Scotland. He had no idea. So it took about 5 minutes. He actually had to stop the bus as we figured out on my phone and then on his phone where I was going. He said, yeah. Let me look after it. I sat back down. 20 more minutes go by and we stop, and he says, last stop, and everybody gets off. And I said, but not me, because I have to go to Banff Crescent. He said, oh no, you need to get off. Go over across the road and wait for the next bus. It'll be about 15 minutes. Right about then, my bladder just screamed in protest, because really I should have peed when I got off the train. That's another story. Take Gertrude off the bus, go over to the bus stop and sit there. 15 minutes later or so, the bus comes rolling along. Looks like it's a different number. Pulls up. I walk to the door. It's the same bus driver. And I say, so just to be clear, your bus is not the one I want to be on. He said, oh, no, you want to be on this bus. So I get on the bus and I said, why could I not have just stayed on this bus to start with? And he looked at me and said, quite cryptically, I thought, where I was going, you couldn't go. So immediately I think Spanish or Scottish mafia. My brother pointed out as I was regaling him with his story that it was probably just that he needed to go to the bus depot and pee. Lucky him. Maybe I should have gone with him anyway. But I like the Scottish mafia story better. So I sit down and we're driving along. I'm looking at my map the whole time to make sure we are going in the right direction. And then the final cherry on top of the cake, on top of the sundae. A guy gets on the bus and he sits across from me and he looks and says, give me a phone. Excuse me? Give me a phone. Holy crap, am I about to get mugged on a Fort William city bus? Give me a phone. I'll find the spot. That's my Scottish accent. Apologies to Scots everywhere. I realized this guy had been on the bus on my trip up away from my destination, and he had heard all the kerfuffle, and he was willing to help me find where I was going. So I assured him that me and the bus driver, we were in cahoots, and we knew what we were doing, and thanked him profusely. And I have to say, the Scottish people have been lovely, bus drivers and everyone else, in helping this directionally challenged lady get around. Anyway, long story coming to the end. I got to my accommodation. I thanked the bus driver profusely. I was going to invite him for dinner because I thought by this point we had a relationship, and then decided maybe that was a little bit inappropriate. Oh, best story ever. I'm going to be dining out on that story for years. But here's one more thing that I like to put in a laughter toolbox is that you're laughing about things, things are good, but I also love to find the opportunities, because when things go awry, if you can look to see what opportunity that gave you, that can help make things make a little more sense, or at least give them some joy and fun. In this case, so you should know that I came to Scotland convinced that I was somehow going to run into Jamie Fraser of Outlander fame. Now, to be clear, Jamie Fraser is a completely fictionalized character of the Diane Gabaldon Outlander books and the subsequent series. But somehow, the little one in me was convinced that I was going to see him. When I was at that bus stop, waiting 15 minutes for the bus to come back to get me, who was sitting beside me but a young guy who could have been Jamie Fraser's grandson? He looked so much like that character. Now, to my credit, I did not gush over him or say anything to him. I just smiled, nodded knowingly, said, "Hiya," and just let it go. But I knew in my heart he had been put there just to make my day even better. God bless Fort William and its buses. All right, that's all I have for you today, other than to say that I'm glad you've come, and I hope that you'll come back and hear about some more of my adventures. And connect with me, please. Let me know what you're thinking about. If you're using some of these laughter tools from our toolbox, if you have something funny you want to share with me, or have any questions that you want me to address or that we can talk about here in the Laughter Lounge. You can connect with me at info@marlasimla.com, connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. I've been putting some reels and stuff on there as well. And you can also subscribe to my Laughter Revolution Digest. It comes out every other week, and I'm including news of my adventures as well as some pictures. And if you'd like to be on the list for that, you can go to marlasimla.com and hit the subscribe button there. And if you know you want to follow along with the podcast, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe on your podcast platform where you're listening to this, so you'll never miss an episode. I'm Marla Simlet. This was Laughter Revolution, and I really appreciate you being here. Until next time, don't forget, laugh more, be well, become your greatest you. Ta!